Welcome to another episode of the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of football and a whole lot of nothing. My name is Oscar Puente, also known as Footy from Afar, and with me as always is my co-host, Chuck Bailey.
Hi, Oscar.
Hi, Chuck. How are you doing this week?
Yeah, not too bad, in the weird void of no football.
Yeah, we are in that weird, awful time of year where you are like, oh, I guess I could watch this one weird preseason friendly just to get my fix of literally anything.
Yeah, I guess I could watch Crystal Palace play Stevenage, or I can see Man United not sell out stadiums in America.
Yeah, that was pretty empty. They usually do pretty well, too. Like, the American preseason tournament sells a ton of tickets, but no one was at that one for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Just wonder if their popularity is dwindling.
Yeah, hopefully. Fuck Man United. As you may or may not be able to tell, our super producer and lovely friend Ian Stimson is not with us this week. He's on holiday with his family. Hopefully having a better time than the two of us are talking to each other about football.
Yeah.
But we love you, Stim. We miss you. And he will be back with us next week.
Yeah. And he had to suffer for it because his flight for the first holiday was cancelled when he was on the plane.
Yeah, that's right. He got completely fucked over. So this is a makeup of that previous attempt at a vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
But so we should be keeping it relatively short and sweet this week. Try to keep it relatively tidy so that Ian doesn't have that much work to do when he gets back. And he will be back with us next week.
I mean, we could just not. Like, he's not here.
Just release a 5-hour episode.
We could just dump 6 hours of recording on him.
Just a lot of, hold on, I'm just going to Google that real quick.
Yeah, and...
Cool.
Yeah, bulk it out.
No doubt. Cool.
Then we could just put a film on, both watch a film, then we'll talk about that film afterwards.
Running commentary
Yeah.
on Phantom Menacer. So this week we will be going through a bit of a Premier League preview, specifically focusing on the top 6 teams from last season, excluding Chelsea. We're going to save my thoughts on Chelsea for next week, when Chuck is also going to go in depth about his thoughts on Palace's upcoming season.
Yeah.
But we'll run through 5 of the top 6 teams, do a bit of a preview, and answer listener questions, and then get out of here. So it should be hopefully a pretty short and sweet episode. So Chuck, I guess that we can start off with the team that came in 6th last season, which is the most embarrassing team from London. I think we can both agree. Arsenal Football Club. They finished last year with, 63 points and a goal difference of 23.
Yeah. I thought they were meant to finish in 4th. I thought that was kind of in the contracts that they signed with like the English FA, that every season Arsenal finish 4th and win the FA Cup.
I think that was one last middle finger on the way out the door from Arsene Wenger. So the big thing with Arsenal, as we just made reference to, is that Wenger is finally out.
Yeah.
Although I do hope that we still see Wenger out signs everywhere, because that's one of my favorite Twitter accounts, is just Wenger out signs, because people hold them up at every kind of event.
Oh, everything. There were people sending it at WrestleMania, weren't there?
Yep, and there were people at like the March for Science at Washington D.C. that said Wenger out. So I hope that tradition continues. But they did bring in a new coach. His name is Unai Emery. He made his name in Spain for the most part, famously managing Real Sociedad for a couple of years. And so I think with that, we can probably expect to see a change in style and a change in system. How much do you know about Unai Emery, Chuck?
Only really a little bit about his time at PSG. Now, I don't know how much information you can infer from that in terms of his play style, because, his team there, especially the front three, kind of picked itself with Neymar, Mbappe and Cavani. So I think it's very interesting. It's strange that this season, even though I had no ill will against Arsene Wenger and I thought he was a fantastic custodian of that team, perhaps, judging by what you said earlier about the Wenger out signs everywhere, probably stayed too long and kind of marred his legacy. But I'm actually quite interested now to see what happens with Arsenal as a kind of, not necessarily neutral, of course, but just as an outside observer of the club, to see actually what happens, because there's fans that for their entire lifetime that have never seen Arsenal as anything other than an Arsene Wenger club and playing in a certain way and finishing fourth every year. So I'm quite excited to see how everybody fits into that team and what changes kind of get made.
Yeah, I certainly have never known Arsenal other than in their Arsene Wenger years, so it's going to be pretty interesting for me to see what they do. Before PSG, when I think he had to do more tactical work to kind of make something out, Unai Emery was known for having a 4-2-3-1/4-3-3 hybrid system, so having a really strong central midfield and then 3 fast attackers, almost like a Liverpool light setup. A lot of pressing, a lot of looking to hit teams in transition, and having a lot of structures in place so that when they get the ball, as soon as they get the ball back in the press, they can hit quickly, with interchange between the 3 central mids a lot. So I could see them probably running out a 4-3-3. Their big transfer so far this summer is this Uruguayan player called Lucas Torreira.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure where he was coming from.
Sampdoria. He signed from Sampdoria,
just from reading up about him a little bit, he seems to be a defensive mid. So, for the first time in, 20 years, they're actually willing to go out and spend money on a defensive midfielder, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
As, for Arsenal fans, I would imagine. And to me, indicates that he's going to try to have that same sort of 4-3-3 setup with a strong two-way midfielders, box-to-box type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, from coming in, it seems like he's happy with his attack, because everything he's bought so far has been players at the back. So he bought Lichtsteiner in on a free, who you'd imagine is probably more of like a Europa League player, kind of swapping with Bellerin and just to push him a bit. They signed Bernd Leno, the goalkeeper, as competition for Cech.
Cech might be on his way out the door, depending on what happens with the Chelsea goalkeeper situation, so we'll see.
God knows what's going on with that. And then, Socrates has been brought in from Dortmund.
And the Greek guy, who, good luck pronouncing his name. Is that Socrates?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at his last name.
Oh, yeah, no one bothers with his last name. Papas.
Yeah, that's
Papas, fuck it. I'm good with names, but that's just... That's just a bridge too far for me.
Yeah. That reminds me of when Chelsea signed Azpilicueta, and everyone was like, Fuck it, your name's Dave. We're just going to call you Dave. Which is what everyone in the squad calls him. He's genuinely just known as Dave.
That's
which
brilliant.
I think is hilarious.
There was a similar story to that a few years ago when, I can't remember the year exactly, but when Chelsea signed John Terry and Mikhail Forsell as well. And so one of the interviewers goes up and he goes up to the players when they get announced for signing. He goes, I'm really sorry, but I just want to double check. How do you pronounce your name? Just turns around and goes, John Terry.
Oh, I love that story. That's really good. I never heard that before.
Yeah, it was very good.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I can see Socrates coming in as a central defender. Probably going to be starting. You'd like to think someone of his kind of caliber and previous history. The rest of the team, Torreira, I'm guessing, as that defensive midfielder, could stay there. I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see a bit more from Granit Xhaka this year.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I just get this feeling that potentially with Torreira, they'll push Xhaka up a little bit more. I mean, you've got Mkhitaryan, who his connection with Aubameyang was obvious towards the tail end of last
that's
season.
The thing that I'm eyeing for them for the most for this year.
Yeah.
Is if that can continue, they'll do really well.
Yeah, to relive the Dortmund days. I mean, now you've got 3 players there from Dortmund. So it's kind of running a bit of a spine there. And it'd be interesting then also to see what happens with Lacazette, because you never know. Lacazette and Aubameyang could end up playing 2 at the front. I like the fact that it's so much of an unknown. I like the fact that you can kind of justify or try and figure out many different things from the Arsenal squad. And it's good, in the kind of root for chaos thing we were talking about in the in the World Cup. Like, it would be nice to see a big shake-up in the league and something happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't know that we'll see them play two at the front just because that manager has never done that before. He's always played with one striker and two wingers, which is exactly what he did at PSG and what he did in La Liga.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine Aubameyang will probably be playing over Lacazette, especially given that he likes a pressing and counter-attacking style, because Aubameyang is a lot faster. But yeah, I think this could go a lot of different ways. I think we'll save our specific predictions for next week when we do like a bit of a competition between everybody as far as like who's going to finish in sixth, who's going to finish in first, who's going to get relegated, and so forth. But with a transition year and a new coach coming in and then trying to buy new players, I don't really see Arsenal making any kind of title noise. They'll probably push for a fourth place spot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they finish sixth again.
No, not really. But it depends on whether they concentrate on Europa League as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because that could be their way into the Champions League if they don't necessarily get fourth place. So I guess they'll have to make that decision later on, but certainly for the first half of the year when the Europa League is much, much easier and they're almost guaranteed to go through, barring any insane collapses, I think they'll probably be pushing for fourth place. I think they'll do a pretty good job of being in that fight. Whereas last year they finished 7 points behind Chelsea and 12 points behind Liverpool. Yeah. So they weren't even remotely close to getting a top four spot.
No.
I think this year it'll be closer than that.
No, and they did for a while. They were very close to Burnley, who were pushing up on them, and now they finished like 9 points above them comfortably. But that was still a big scare for a while. But I think with the signings that Emery has made, last year they finished in sixth and they kept 13 clean sheets. I'd expect that to go up a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they were hitting sort of maybe 17, 18 or so clean sheets throughout the season. And goals per game, they were hitting in 1.95. So it's not too bad, like 2 goals per game, conceding 1.34 per game as well. So I think that they'll improve Arsenal, but I think you're right. I think it's to expect too much from them would be a bit folly. But it's exciting. Like I think Arsenal fans in general, I try not to watch Arsenal fan TV anymore because it's a bit depressing. But but I think they have something. They have a lot of hope, really.
Yeah. I mean, I would be hopeful if I was an Arsenal fan, just because I think Wenger should have quit 10 years ago. Honestly, like people joke and stuff, but the Wenger out stuff started a very long time ago. It's been the writing's been on the wall on that for a long time. And so for him to finally be gone, as much as he was, a legend of a manager and he brought them all the success when he was there at the beginning. Yeah. I would be very happy to see the back of him as an Arsenal fan. And so I think that it'll be a very interesting year with a lot of teams being unknowns and Arsenal being one of those teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving right along, we are saving Chelsea for next week. So that brings us to fourth place. Champions League finalists, but didn't do as well in the league as they probably would have hoped, is Liverpool. They finished on 75 points with a plus 46 goal difference. So that's a very good goal difference. That beats out Tottenham and Man United, which normally would correlate with a higher position in the table, but they only got 75 points. But they have been splashing the cash a lot this summer. I think all that Champions League money is just going right out. And the Coutinho money, obviously, too. So the big transfers have been Alisson, the Brazilian keeper from Roma for £65 million. Naby Keita from Leipzig for £55 million. Fabinho from Monaco for £44 million. And Shaqiri from Stoke for £13 million.
Yeah, and Keita might actually be more because there was stipulations when they signed him that depending on how far Leipzig got in various competitions, meant that they could spend more money. So I think it actually went up to about 63 million or so for Keita. Wow. Yeah, for someone who's not a huge attacking asset.
No, he's more of a box-to-box type, like Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard guy, but without maybe the goals that they had.
Yeah, his goal record isn't, it's not terrible, but he got 14 in 58 over 2 years for Leipzig.
He's known for playing high tempo, which is well suited to their pressing game. And I'm guessing they see him as the replacement for Coutinho, at least long term, because he's only 22.
Yeah.
But if I was Liverpool, I wouldn't be looking to change much. I think after Coutinho left, they really kind of found their stride. They hit their stride. They found their system, and they rode it all the way to the Champions League final. And I think they had a very good second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as they're spending money, I think they'd be pretty crazy to change up what they were playing at the end of the year with, Firmino, Salah, Mane up front, and Lightning. That attacking three is spectacular.
Yeah, it's insane. You can't fault it. Anyone that doubts Salah is just a madman. And their entire front three. But yeah, I think they've bought quite well. In that, even Shaqiri, I think, is a good signing because he's got enough quality coming off the bench that it's not too much of a dip. I think that's where they kind of suffered toward the end of last year, was that the people they brought on, albeit some were performing quite well, they just didn't have enough really. And with Oxlade-Chamberlain looking like he's basically out for the whole of this season as well.
That's right. Yeah.
They really needed that a player like that. So that's quite good. They brought in Van Dijk in January last year. That was obviously 75 million, so big old money. And he kind of solidified them at the back a bit. And Alisson means it truly is over for Karius, who kept having every howler highlighted in pre-season, which doesn't help the guy.
Let's see. They lost Emre Can.
Yes. To Juventus.
So he went to Juventus. Yeah, that's right.
Who are going to win the Champions League this year? I'm calling it.
With Ronaldo, actually, not a bad shout. Although he won 3 in a row, I don't know that getting him a 4th in a row is likely. But they brought in Fabinho, who I think is a pretty much a like-for-like replacement. If anything, Fabinho's a little bit more mobile, but not radically different. And like we were saying, all the money that they spent is some of it, like Alisson and Fabinho, are coming in to replace or improve in areas that they would have. But I think the other signings are probably more like squad depth and rotation options, the way Chelsea have like Willian and Pedro switching a lot, even though they're both good players. But I think that given how much they underperformed their goal difference last year, because they had the second best goal difference, and I'm just pulling up the XG totals for last season.
Well, you said earlier about their goal difference being 6 better than Man United, but they scored nearly 20 goals more. They scored 16 more goals than them, and conceded 10 more. So, and they finished two spots above. But we'll get on to Man United and their bore tactics in a minute.
Yeah, Man United were interesting, let's say, last year. But I would expect Liverpool to finish much higher up the table, if not fully challenging for the title, given that these players have had a little more time together and just the quality that they have and having added more depth. I think they're really good. I think they're just really good.
Yeah, they're an exciting team to watch as well. Like, what we were talking about the other week about people picking a team to follow. If you wanted to go for a big team, I'd say like as a fresh person into the game with virgin eyes, as it were, Liverpool are very easy on the eye because it's so fast paced. It's such good quality, and they have the potential to either blow teams away or absolutely capitulate. And so it's so exciting.
Yeah, they're really fun to watch. So moving right along, up next we have Tottenham. Tottenham finished in third place, 77 points, but a goal difference of 38, which is not particularly well. Normally, I don't think that would get you top 4. It was just kind of a weird year.
Yeah, they still scored more goals than Man United, though, again.
Yeah. But, like we talked about last week, it's not just about putting it in the back of the net.
No.
France deserved the World Cup, and I think United deserved to be in second place. Maybe third, but, debatable either way. The big signing for Tottenham
is no one.
Yes,
They've signed Absolutely
Literally no one.
no one. I think
Okay.
with the new stadium coming in, they've really tightened up. Yeah, I don't know how confident I feel about that. Like, undoubtedly, Tottenham have a great squad.
Yeah.
They do. They don't have the biggest, huge squad, and there is some kind of big question marks there regarding both quality of players. I think in obviously Sissoko springs to mind straight away. Lamella, who's always injured, but they've had so many players get really far in the World Cup.
Yes, that was what I was going to bring up. That's the big concern with them, is that their best players all got a whole lot of minutes this summer. Kane's usually bad and sluggish in August anyway. He might not even play in August this coming year.
Yeah, does that
Ali
mean
also...
is Llorente still there?
Yeah, Llorente's still there. But if you go off the expected points total, which is, I'm not going to get into the math of that because it's even more complicated, but it's basically running statistical regressions on expected goals and expected goals allowed, correlating that to goal difference and blah, 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 blah. Historically, Liverpool last year would have had 79 points for second place. Tottenham would have had 76 points for third place. So they were solidly, third place wasn't like a fluke per se with them. But with the issues we talked about with their star players starting the season late, being probably very tired. Like Dele Alli wasn't even 100% fit for England.
Yeah.
And now he's had no time off. I can't imagine him being particularly fit for Tottenham.
Nope. I think out of that front, because Son's at the Asian Games as well, and has this thing of national service hanging over his head.
Yep.
So obviously Kane for England got to the semi-final. Ali, England semi-final. Lloris, France final. You've got Ericsson who got to the round of 16. Vertonghen to the semi-final. Trippier to the semi-final. Dyer to the semi-final. I can keep going as well.
Yeah.
Like Alderweireld, Danny Rose. Wow, they had a lot of players get fired at the World Cup.
I think people were throwing around the stat that Tottenham had the most team in the semifinals, I believe.
Yeah, I think once you had the last four teams left, I think Tottenham was the most represented. I think it was 9.
Which is going to just destroy their lineup. And combine that with, this is obviously internet rumors and hearsay, but I heard that Pochettino is losing a lot of the respect of the players, which he is a very abrasive personality. So that wouldn't quite surprise me. The way people aren't reacting well to the way he froze out Alderweireld for no good reason at all, other than they just didn't like each other. But that's unprofessional when he was their best defender and he just didn't play. Yeah,
and I've seen rumours of Alderweireld going to Man United again as well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's transfer season. The same old rumours come up every bloody year, and it's
yeah. But that is, I think, part of what happened with Conte at Chelsea is that he lost the dressing room after the whole butting heads with Costa and freezing out David Luiz sort of stuff, and Willian too. And so I think that the rumblings around the Tottenham locker room that players don't like the way he treated Toby Alderweireld and are starting to sort of lose respect and faith in him as a manager, combined with the just basic squad rotation, player health, energy levels issues that they're going to have because of the World Cup. I think Tottenham are going to fall down the table significantly.
Do you really?
This year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to repeat third place. I don't think they probably will even be pushing for top 4, which of course means put your money down now for them to win the title, because we're always wrong with our predictions. But yeah, if insofar as I'm making some sort of prediction, I don't think they'll even be pushing for top 4, to be honest. I think they're going to be spread too thin. They don't have a deep enough squad. They don't seem to be spending money. And they're losing a lot of their best players for significant portions of the season. Yeah,
and there's still, to just pile on again, there's still the thing that potentially their stadium wouldn't be ready for the start of the season. So the fixtures could change. If say, for example, the stadium would be ready in the third week or the fourth week, they could change the fixtures so that they play 3 away games in a row and then play their first home game at the new stadium is made. However,
Wow.
they could play at Wembley again, because the rule is once you play a home game at a stadium, that's where you have to play your home games all year round.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that rule.
Yeah, so if they play one game at Wembley, then they're there again all season.
Yeah.
But it will feel a bit more like a home for them, I guess.
I mean, it has been a whole season, so.
Yeah, they played there last year, and the Wembley hoodoo kind of thing that everyone said, but to still finish third.
Yeah, that didn't turn into anything really. I think that was a bunch of noise over nothing. They played well, and I think their record at quote unquote home was better than on the road, so it didn't particularly seem to affect them. The only thing I would say in their favor is that they don't really have any players who are going to leave for the African Cup of Nations, which is going to affect stuff this year.
Serge Aurier for Ivory Coast.
Yeah, but he doesn't even start. So, like...
No, but he's usually in rotation with Sanchez, isn't he? Quite a lot.
Yeah, well, they're not losing anyone from their first 11, I guess.
No, that's true. Which, that's something that we could have touched on with Liverpool, because they're going to lose. Well, Salah, if he's stopped playing for Egypt, we don't know. But Sadio Mane, Naby Keita, who's coming straight in.
Right. Yeah, and it's going to be a weird season because with the World Cup kind of having players come in late, especially from the top 6, and then AFCON stealing players in the middle of the season. I generally don't like the club seasons after the World Cup in terms of the quality of play. It's not the best, but they're usually pretty crazy because stuff just happens. So we'll see. But that is the one thing I would say in Tottenham's benefit, is that they don't really have that many, at least in their starting 11, players that are going to go off to the African Cup of Nations. But that said, I still think they're going to fall down the table a lot. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if they fall down beneath Arsenal.
Wow.
Like that. It'll be that much of an effect.
That would definitely make the Arsenal fans happy.
Yeah, St. Tottenham Day is
get rid of Wenger and get St. Tottenham Day back.
Yeah, I think if you offered them that right now, they'd take that in a heartbeat. So, moving along the table, last year's second place. This team I have a few more thoughts about. Actually, both of the top two. We have Man United, finished with 81 points, goal difference of 40, so the third best goal difference, but only 28 goals conceded, which is the second best behind City. If you look at their expected points using expected goals allowed, etc., they actually way overperformed. They should have had not should have is a very dangerous word, so I'll say that in the expectation statistical average, you would think that they would have had 62 points, which is 18 less than they actually had. And that would have been good enough for 6th place. Curiously enough, only 4 points above Crystal Palace in the expectation.
Woohoo!
Which you'll be happy to hear, because they are the 7th place team in the expected points table from last year.
Palace are?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because we were just so dog shit for so long, and then we were the form team for the back end of last season.
Right. Well, we'll get into all that next week.
Yeah.
But Palace are good.
But Man United, I can... That overperformance, I think I can put down to one thing exactly, and that's David De Gea.
Because 100%.
There were so many games where he was just pulling off save after save after save. I'm pretty sure it was the game against Arsenal where he made like 15, 16 saves in that game, and some of them were incredible and point blank and reflex saves, and you're just like, this guy is adamant at dragging Man United through.
He really was. And you always hear that like a good goalkeeper is worth 10 points in the table, and I think he had one of the best single goalkeeping seasons I've ever seen, and I think it was worth 19 extra points in the table, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how he does coming off of his very horrendously disappointing performance at the World Cup.
He sucked.
He was awful, really bad. Yeah. And so I'm curious to see how he recovers. I suspect he'll probably be fine. In terms of transfers, they sold Daley Blind to Ajax, but that's not a big deal. He didn't really play that much last year. And they brought in Fred.
What team again?
Ajax. Ajax. Sorry. Going full American on you there.
Going full Deadpool villain right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, their big pickup is Fred from Shakhtar, 52 million pounds. I don't know that he's going to start. Do you think he's going to be starting for them?
Fred, I've got to admit, I know like very little about this guy. And the thing with Mourinho is they could have spent 150 million on him, and I still wouldn't feel like he was going to start.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because like Carrick is now completely gone. Yeah, because Carrick retired this year.
He did.
So maybe at the start of the year, especially with Pogba out, because Mourinho in a recent interview considers Fred a more creative player than Pogba.
Yep, he said in the press conference that he signed him for his creative vision and passing.
Yeah, and he said Pogba's more of a physical player, which I don't really know what that means. Whether it means like Pogba can just run at players or whatever, who knows. That's going to be a shame as well. Like, Pogba got to shine in the World Cup, and now he's just going to have the fucking Mourinho shackles, like, well and truly on him.
Yeah.
Same as, like, Lukaku and a few others.
Yeah, you know, talking of the World Cup, like, they are going to have a bunch of players missing early on. You got Rashford and Lukaku as their forwards.
Yeah, Rashford, Lukaku, Lingard, Ashley Young, Phil Jones, Fellaini.
Oh, yeah, Fellaini. That's right. Yeah, so they're missing a bunch of guys. Wow. Martial, a lot of talk of Martial going to Chelsea, which would leave them with approximately 0 striker options at the start of the season.
Yeah, unless they played like Alexis Sanchez up front.
Yep, he'll be nice and rested. Given that Chile didn't do anything this summer.
It's the first time he hasn't had Copa America or World Cup or anything like that.
I would expect him to have a beast of a season, actually.
Yeah, I thought that as well for a while. I still think it can happen, but you know, we're talking about a team here that like we said, you know, yeah, they finished in second, but they scored 68 goals. It's not a ton. You know, if you look at it per game they were scoring like 1.79 goals per game, so still playing like fairly tight. And also the way they were playing as well, you know, they averaged only like 55% possession last year.
Yeah, horrible. And like their attack was even worse than their goal total indicates, because their expected goals total was 59.
Wow.
And meanwhile their expected goals allowed total was 44. So like there's David De Gea right there.
That's David De Gea.
Right? Like, that is not a good season. And I think we're talking ourselves into them having a bad season, but the flip side of that is that they have the second most talented squad, probably, if not the single most talented, with Sanchez, Pogba, and Lukaku in there.
Yeah, probably, but I mean, like,
and Mourinho,
I don't think
like, you can't count out Mourinho. He finds ways to win.
Yeah, he's the ultimate pragmatist, really. Like,
right.
But yeah, I don't really think it's like talking down, because I can see United finishing like second or third again. But it's just so uninspiring and just so like I've got nothing to get excited about. It's like it's not like the United team of before when they were amazing under Ferguson and would just dominate and win competitions everywhere and what have you. It's now like, okay, like I'm second in the league. Yeah, they'll concede 28 goals, but ultimately, like, what did they get last season? They're not very far.
Right.
We did have a question actually about this, funnily enough, from our good friend Dave Matteo. Shout out Dave.
Shout out to Dave. Woo. Yeah.
He said, how long until Mourinho starts his collapse at Man United? Now, for those that don't know, Mourinho is very famous for kind of having like a second season syndrome.
Third season
syndrome, sorry.
Second season's when he wins everything, usually, which he didn't win anything last year, but I think last year was the first time Mourinho didn't win the league in his second season at a club. Like, he's always won the league, and a couple of times he won the Champions League as well.
Yeah, which he did with, who did he do? With
Real Madrid
Chelsea
and
twice,
with
Real, Porto.
And Inter.
Yeah,
his track record is amazing.
But what do you think?
I think that it could be this year, because he does tend to have about a 2-year lifespan before he completely alienates and destroys all relationships with the club and with the players.
Yeah, well, he's been doing that for most of the last year anyway, slagging off,
Right.
like openly slagging off so many players. Like,
Right.
Luke Shaw, for fuck's sake. Like
Poor Luke Shaw.
Poor Luke Shaw. Like, that kid just gets fucking bullied. And then he comes out and slags off other players as well. He doesn't really talk up about Pogba and kind of talks him down. Martial is now, like, basically asking to leave, apparently. And so, yeah, it could be this year. Oh, that could be fun, actually.
Although, all that being said, I think that he is going to have a lot to prove this year. I think he hates that Pep Guardiola is now, like, officially considered the best manager in the world. With no really argument for anyone else at this point.
Nope.
And he's going to hate that he didn't win anything in the second season. He's going to hate how far behind Man City they were, because Man City last year was, I think, pretty much inarguably the greatest Premier League team of all time. Just in terms of the number of records that they broke. They broke 100 points, the goals scored, the wins in a row, all that stuff. So, like, he's going to come in with quite the point to prove. Yeah, I don't know. It could be this year, but it could also be like an all-time Mourinho year where he just goes fucking crazy. And I think he also gets overly a reputation for parking the bus. I think if you look at his teams, after January, they very much shift their focus towards defending whatever lead they've built and being genuinely being a very defensive team, looking to contain other teams from doing what they normally do. But I think if you look at the first half of his leagues, like, he has had some very exciting, very attacking teams. He just kind of pumps the brakes in January. But these guys, if they get off to a good start, could go flying with the players that they have.
Yeah, but they did last year, didn't they? They opened with, like, what, 2 or 3 4-0 wins in a row?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was just like, right, put the brakes on, this is ridiculous. Like, we need to stop. This can't be our expectation. We can't let people think this is how we're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so do you think they make top 4 or no?
Make top 4? Yeah. I think they will. I don't think, as much as I have problems with Mourinho, I don't think he can capitulate that much. Although, having said that, there was that year at Chelsea where...
Yep.
After however many games, I think Chelsea were, like, looking at relegation.
Yeah, they were in 18th at one point that season. And he got fired in, like, November.
Yeah. Oh, no, I remember that season because Chelsea were in 18th and Palace were in 4th at that time. And then we were about 5th at Christmas. And then that's when Pardew went on that ridiculous losing run.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Where we didn't get a point for, like, 14 games.
Yeah, something that was the same time that Leicester went on their amazing end of season saving run. I think that was the same year.
Yes, yeah. It was. Yeah.
If I'm betting on United, I think they're definitely going to finish top 4, and it's kind of a coin flip, but my gut kind of says that they will be better than they were last year, because last year they did not deserve second place, and I think this year they will be going into the last few weeks of the season, let's say game week 35, still contending for the title.
Do you think so? Do you think that the style of play will change?
Yes, because of what Sanchez offers that is much better than anything they had last season before January. And he'll have had more time and he'll be well rested. I think he's going to be the key for them. And I also think that this summer highlighted what Lukaku and Pogba can both do. And so I think they'll come in very confident. And even if he tries to, like, play them in a system, I just think that at a certain point their natural talent will just shine through. And so I would think they're going to have a good year, not a bad year.
Well, if there's one man who can stamp out confidence and self-belief, it's Jose Mourinho.
Yeah. I miss him. Honestly, I'd take him back at Chelsea. I would, in a heartbeat. But I know everyone else hates him, and that's probably fair. So it is what it is. And then that would bring us to Man City. 100 points. First time that's ever happened.
100 points.
100 table points is so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I know, right?
Goal difference of 79, which that goal difference is better than anyone else's goals scored except for Liverpool.
Shit, I just noticed that, yeah. Holy
and
fuck.
106 goals scored, which is the most ever. 103 goals scored was the previous record with Chelsea. I was so fucking mad last year at this Man City team because Chelsea, until last season, had the record for most days spent in first place, most wins in a row, most home points, best goal difference, most goals scored, least goals conceded, most table points. Like, at some point or another, in the time since I've been a fan, Chelsea had set all of those records. But City broke all of those records, except for least goals conceded. And they did it all in the same season. So, like, they were undoubtedly, last season, the greatest team to ever play in the Premier League. I don't think that's even a hot take.
No, it's not really, is it?
They're just absurdly good.
You couldn't really push enough plaudits on them.
Yeah, fuck them. I fucking hate Pep Guardiola too. Like, ugh, it makes me so mad.
Yeah.
So the big question is, can they do that again? Can they possibly come even close to being that good again? Because I don't think they can. No, like, it's unreasonable to expect any team, even that team, to hit those highs again. I think they just happen to, like, perfectly catch a run of results. But their expected points was still 91. So that's going to win you the league 90% of seasons.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, nothing really has changed. They brought in Riyad Mahrez, but he's just depth. He's just another option.
Yeah, no, what a great depth player.
I know. It's amazing. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, I'm honestly jealous. I wish that Chelsea spent the money that they have the way City do, because Chelsea have that money. They're just sitting on it because they're trying to save up for a new stadium. And I don't know. There's, like, not much to say about this Manchester City team just because they were so good last season and, like, not much has changed, really. They don't, like, they have a bunch of guys that were late in the World Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have the most depth of any team in the league. And so, like, yes, Kyle Walker will be out. John Stones will be out. Sterling will be out. De Bruyne will be out.
Company,
although he's not necessarily a guaranteed starter.
No, not necessarily.
But, like, they can still run out a starting lineup of, let's say, Mahrez, Sané, David Silva, Gundogan? I never know how to pronounce his name. Bernardo Silva is still an option. Aguero and Jesus aren't going to be that tired. Jesus maybe because he made the quarters. Mendy, Mendy wasn't playing for France because he was hurt, right? But now he's healthy.
No, but he's been on, like, the American tour and stuff.
Yeah, he's on preseason, yeah. So they have Mendy there. Like, they're gonna be fine. Like,
yeah.
Their backup 11 is good enough to win the league, probably.
Yeah, or at least take
compete.
them pretty far.
Yeah.
So Mahrez for the kind of Champions League buy, and they're gonna want that so much. Like, the owners have wanted that for so long now, and fired managers for not getting it.
Right.
Even title winning managers. So I still, just because of how City are, I still worry that if they didn't win the league and or the Champions League this year, that Pep would be gone come next season.
Really?
Yeah, because that's just how mental these people think now.
Yeah, I mean, who was it? Our good friend Raphael was saying that Chelsea are crazy for firing Conte. And, like, I didn't actually argue with him about this, but in my head I was like, nah. Like, yes, teams fire their managers too quickly, probably. But at the same time, like, they needed to fire Conte. I don't, for a second, like, disagree with that, because he had lost the locker room. And, like, when you are a club of the caliber that Man City are, Man United are, Chelsea are, should be, or aim to be.
Yeah.
Little things like that, like, even Zidane with Real Madrid, like, yes, they won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, and that's an amazing accomplishment and should not in any way be belittled, but they were not good in the league. And they want to be good in the league. Like, I understand that, at least. As, you know, Raf is a Southampton fan. You're a Palace fan. So, like, it's a completely different mindset. And to me, like, those things are admittedly batshit insane that that's the world that we live in. But like within the context of, yes, that is the world that we live in, then it makes sense that that is an issue. Like there's a reason that all the big clubs do that. It's not just City or Chelsea or, Arsenal were the only big quote unquote club that had that much loyalty to their manager, and look where it got them, right? Like,
yeah,
you have to be that way. I think that you make a really good point, which is that City are going to aggressively pursue the Champions League. And maybe that'll distract them in the league. Maybe it'll distract them enough that other teams will compete with them. But they're still the best team in England. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. They have enough depth that they can compete on 2 or 3 fronts without really seeing much of a drop-off in quality. And I think the end of the season, they'll be right there at the top going into the last couple of weeks of the season with a decent shout to win it. Anything can happen. Leicester won the fucking league, right? Like, anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett would say. But, they're the best team. So, like, they're probably the favorites to win it.
Yeah. I don't think, even saying that, I don't think it's that ridiculous to think that they could come very close to doing the same thing again this year.
Yeah, you really think so?
Because they're just so dominant. Like, the way they play, it's incredibly exciting as well. Just to watch, just the skill they have everywhere. And with bringing in Mahrez, that gives a bit of an extra option, because, Yaya Toure, God bless him, is now gone, the birthday boy. He's been released. So, look at the difference there. Like, get excited because Yaya Toure is coming on, or get excited because Riyad Mahrez is coming on, or because Riyad Mahrez is playing, David Silva's coming on, or Leroy Sané's coming on, or, they have such strength. And they're the team that, exactly like you said at the beginning, even though they've got tons of people that will had like quite deep runs in the World Cup, I don't fear for them in any way, shape or form.
No.
Especially, even, although I think their first game of the season's against Arsenal, which I think is quite interesting, but then get this for a fucking run when you've got half a team. So you've got Arsenal, then you've got Huddersfield, Wolves, Newcastle, Fulham, Cardiff, Brighton.
That's amazing. Who did they have to pay for that?
Yeah, I know, right? Then after that, they've got Liverpool, who, City lost 2 games in the league last year, and both were to Liverpool. So they're very much their bogey team. But yeah, like, they could get off to an absolute flyer, but by the time they play Liverpool, they could be on 21 points again after 7 games.
To what extent, though, do you think that they suffer from defending champion syndrome? By which I mean other teams will have circled them on the calendar, saying this is the week that we shocked the world by beating City.
But teams have not have had that last year? With all of the records they were smashing and the way they were playing, like, every team would have been thinking that for City. I mean, like, Palace came really, really close. Like, we were the first ones to end their goal-scoring record and their run. I'm pretty sure in the league, and that was a 0-0. And fuck, if Milivojevic had scored that penalty right at the end, that would have been amazing. But every team would have had that year. And I think all the managers were addressing that, and they know. And the thing is, like, you can set up and try and beat City, but I think only Liverpool. Klopp played it perfectly. He knew exactly how to beat them, but he has the weapons to do that. He has an incredibly fast, incredibly fluid team, and so that when he was playing that really, really high, fast press, he had the quality enough all around the pitch to just choke City out of the game. No other team can really do that.
Arsenal might with their new manager and their players.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still fear for Arsenal to go toe-to-toe with them.
I never, ever would doubt Mourinho to figure out the right game plan to beat a team. Like, I think they could easily take City down. In fact, didn't they beat City as like their one good thing in the second half of the season? 3-2. Yeah. They won it on Saturday, April 7th, and the final score was 3-2. With City was up 2-0 at halftime.
Oh, shit, yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, so Pogba had 2 goals, and then Smalling had 1 in the second half. So the case in point right there. I think, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to exactly explain what I mean by this, but there is this certain thing that happens, and I've seen it with Chelsea several times, where the season after you win the title, every single fucking team seems to, like, step their game up against you and be kicking you that much harder, be running that much 50% more, like, to minute 0 to minute 90. Like, even when you have a lead, they don't give up. Whereas when you're on the way to winning a title, there's a certain, like, hoodoo that happens where teams are like, well, fuck. All right, 70 minutes, we're down by 2. They're going to win. They're winning the title this year anyway, so we're just going to be another loss. So I don't know. I don't know that they necessarily will. I also think that, like you just said, Liverpool figured out what to do. And I think that other teams are not going to be to the same talent level of Liverpool, obviously, but will sort of try to use that as a template. And I think maybe the league will have figured out this Pep Guardiola team a little bit more. They were very tactically complex last year. Like, their pressing system and their rotational system, the way they played with the fullbacks, where they would weirdly invert and become like central midfielders.
Yeah.
In certain scenarios, like, it was an incredibly complex system. But now everyone's had a whole summer. Every manager's had a whole summer to watch those minutes, analyze it, figure out how to sort of counteract it. And so I think it's just inherently much, much harder to defend a title than it is to win one. In every sport, you hear that from basketball coaches, you hear that from baseball players. Like, whatever sport you're in, defending a title is much harder than winning one. And so even though they were the best team ever, there's gonna be a natural sort of drop-off for them that I would be 0.25% concerned if I was a City fan. Like, yes, they're still the best team in England, right? But, like, there would be that nagging doubt.
I still put them down as winning the league.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, I mean, that about wraps it up for the top 6, or 5 of the top 6, I should say, for our preview this week. Next week we will be back with Chelsea in depth, Palace in depth, and a couple of prediction competition games between the 3 of us. And we will be doing a lot more listener questions next week, so please do send those in on the Facebook, on the Twitter, and all the things. Chuck, any last words?
No, just that, yeah, exactly what Oscar said. We're going to have plenty of questions, so get in touch on our Facebook page, on Twitter at MilesOffsidePod, to our emails. I don't think we've had an email question yet, so that'd be quite nice. MilesOffsidePod@gmail.com. You can follow us individually, myself at Chuck_Bailey_.
I am at Footy From Afar, Footy with an IE, not a Y.
And you can follow the absent super producer Ian Stimson on Twitter at Ian Stimson as well.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Tell a friend. If you're American, leave us a review on iTunes.
If you're not American, leave us a review on iTunes.
Yes, everyone leave us a review on iTunes. And yeah, that's it. That's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me as well.
Bye.
See ya.